What's up, y'all? I hope you can see me better than last week because I only realized after I was editing that there was a glare with my window. So it's closed this week and I hope that helps. So if you watched my last Tips and Techniques video, you'll know that this week I'm going to be talking about something that is related, and that is teeth. For this vid, I'm going to be talking about the three main types of teeth, how to make them, what they're made out of, and like where to use them. And then by the end, I'm going to give two things. I'm just going to give two final notes on teeth to keep in mind. Also, before we begin, if you have not watched that video on mouth lighting, I highly suggest you do before watching this video because I am going to reference it a little bit. So if you want to make sure you know what I'm talking about, give that video a watch. Or don't. It's your life. So the first type of teeth is what I call soft teeth. It's exactly what it sounds like. These are teeth that are, soft, they're plush, they're squishy, they're not made of anything hard, they're generally, fun to touch. Now, soft teeth can be made out of a bunch of different stuff, but the three that I would suggest for you are, first off, being minky fabric. Minky fabric is going to give your teeth a little more fuzzy texture, I guess you could call these fuzzy teeth, because minky is like a little furry in texture. Minky definitely works, but if you do want teeth that are more smooth in texture, you probably want to stay with minky. But it is a really good material, comes in a lot of colors, it's easy to work with. Just keep in mind that it might be a little fuzzy. I've definitely used minky before and I've had no problems with it, so it is definitely a good choice. Next up, you're going to have fleece. Fleece is always a solid option. It's kind of like the jack of all trades kind of fabric. It can do a little of everything. Fleece also comes in a lot of colors. It's really accessible to get, unlike minky where you mainly have to get it online. I have definitely used fleece before. I used it in my, kind of first fursuits I ever made. And then I moved on to other stuff, but there's nothing wrong with using fleece. It's always going to be reliable and it's always going to work. One note on fleece is if you use it, make sure to get anti-pill fleece, because if you don't, then over time your teeth are going to start to pill, and you don't want that because then that's just going to look weird. And for those of you who don't know what pill means, if you ever look at fleece that has been worn down or has been used a lot, you'll see these tiny little balls of just strands of fibers, and those are called pills, and generally they're pretty easy to get off if you want to get them off. You can take like a face shaver and kind of just shave them off, but again, why even deal with that? And especially on the teeth, because the teeth are going to be really small, so it's kind of probably going to be harder to deal with those. So just make sure that when you're using fleece, make sure to get anti-pill fleece. It's generally always labeled as such. It will save you a lot of grief down the road once your teeth become a little, older in use. And finally, the last fabric I would suggest using is felt. Felt is what I recently just changed to. Felt is probably going to give you the most tooth-like look, I guess you could say, because felt is very smooth, and it also has like a texture that makes it not like, unworldly smooth, but a little rich. So it's very kind of like rough and tooth-like in my opinion. But I really like felt. It comes in multiple colors. As always, it's probably the easiest to get out of all of these fabrics. You can get it you don't even have to go to a fabric store. You can generally find it in craft stores. Keep in mind though that it doesn't have as many colors as fleece and minky, but it still has, all the basics like white, black, and all that stuff. Also keep in mind that if you're going to use felt, make sure to use soft felt, not hard felt, because you need a fabric that is going to be easy to sew with and to manipulate. And if it's hard felt, it might be, harder to turn inside out and all that stuff. So always make sure that you're going for the soft felt. It can be bought by the yard, but it also can be bought in little squares, I guess you could say, and they're really cheap. They're like less than $1 most of the times. So I highly suggest using felt. It's a really good option, and it's personally my favorite. So there you have it. Those are the main fabrics I would say to use for the soft teeth. Special mention goes to Lycra, or that sports fabric. The reason it only gets a special mention and I wouldn't put it on the main list of materials is because sometimes it can be more difficult to work with. Lycra is very stretchy and very malleable, and almost to too much of a sense, because when it comes to sewing the teeth in, you might actually have a problem because the Lycra is too forgiving. So it's definitely an option if you want to use it. It probably comes in some more fun colors than fleece, minky, or felt, because you can get it all sparkly and you can get all the fun patterns and stuff, but it isn't the easiest fabric to work with, so I would put it to the side as not your first choice, although it is an option. I just wanted to mention it because it can be fun to use if you get the right kind of, color. But yeah, I would definitely try and stick to those other three before you try Lycra, unless you're feeling adventurous, and just go for it. Alright, now that we've gone over the materials, it's time to explain how to make the soft teeth, and it's really not hard at all. To make soft teeth, all you really have to do is take your fabric of choice, make a pattern for whatever teeth you want, trace it onto your fabric, sew your fabric together, and I will say tip, when you are sewing the fabric of the teeth together, don't cut out the teeth from the fabric and then sew it. Just kind of draw it all on one big piece of fabric and then run it under the machine, because smaller pieces are always harder to sew. So if you're just like tracing it with the machine versus, sewing each tiny little tooth, you're going to have a much easier time. And then after you've sewn it, you just cut it out of the fabric. But yeah, after you have sewn up your teeth, cut them out and simply sew them into your mouth, and that's basically it. Now I've seen a few different ways for people to insert the teeth, and this goes hand in hand with how you've done the lining. It really doesn't matter what type of lining you did if you want to just top sew in the teeth, because you're going to do it at the end, so the lining's already going to be in. But if you like to do the over method of lining, where you kind of put it on top of everything, I've definitely seen some people put the teeth in before everything else, like even before the taping of the head and all that stuff. What they do is they glue the teeth into the foam of the mouth, and then when they take the lining, when they go to put it over everything, they cut a hole or a slit wherever the teeth are going to come through, and they pull the lining over the teeth, so the teeth kind of pop out through the lining. I'll try and put visuals here because it might sound confusing, but that's another way to do it, and it works for some people. And then once you have it through, you just like glue it up. At least that's what I'm pretty sure people do. I don't do it. I just top sew in my teeth. There are other people who, when they put the teeth in, they do that technique, but then they put the lining in before everything else too. So they do the same technique, but instead of waiting till everything's done and then pulling the teeth through and everything, they just put the lining down and then they do it. So there's so many different ways to do it. It really is whatever you feel the most comfortable with. But if you're a beginner and you don't want to deal with all that and it sounds confusing and you're like, what's going on? I highly suggest just sewing the teeth into the mouth. It is pretty durable, it generally works, and you really can't go wrong with it. So don't worry about pulling your teeth through your lining or any of that stuff. Just sew your teeth up, stuff them up a little bit, and then sew them in the mouth. And voila, you have your soft teeth. Okay, moving on to the second type of teeth, and that is hard teeth. Once again, it is exactly what it sounds like. It is teeth that are hard, teeth that are not plush, that are not squishy, teeth that are like real teeth. They're, they're sturdy. Now, hard teeth really can be made out of only two things. The first one is clay. This is probably going to be the most common one because it's, the easiest material to get. This is just, regular sculpting clay. You can get it at any craft store, any fabric store, whatever you want. It's the clay that you just, mold and then you put in the oven. Another type of clay I've seen people use is Model Magic, but basically it's just your regular sculpting clay that you can get at any store. It comes in multiple colors, and yeah, that's just it. It's just clay. The other way to make hard teeth, which is probably the less accessible option, is to 3D print them. Now, I know a lot of you probably do not have a 3D printer because they are expensive. And so you really don't have to worry about this. This is kind of, I want to say, for people who want to go the extra mile with it. 3D printed teeth do look nice, but they're really not going to offer you any other advantage over like clay teeth because they both kind of look the same. They're both just hard teeth. And at the end of the day, in my opinion, it really doesn't matter. So if you have a 3D printer, good on you. Use it to print out your teeth and have nice, shiny 3D printed teeth. But if you don't stress about it. Just go out and get some clay and make your perfectly fine hard teeth that way. But yeah, those are the two main materials that you really can make the hard teeth out of. I'm sure somebody out there has probably thought of something else, so these aren't the only two, but these are the main two and probably the easiest way to do it. Now, in regards of how you make these teeth, again, it's pretty simple. All you're going to do is, if you have the clay, you're basically just going to sculpt the teeth however you want, however many teeth you want. You're going to throw them in the oven for however long the instructions tell you. You're going to pull them out and voila, you have the teeth. If you didn't find the right color of clay, maybe you'll paint them, maybe you won't, but there is your hard teeth. I'm not going to talk much on 3D printing because I've never done it. I don't have a 3D printer, but if you have one, I'm sure you know how to do it. Just make your 3D teeth. As far as I know, it's something like you make the design and you transfer it to the 3D printer and it does the rest. But I'm not going to pretend I know exactly what I'm talking about, so if you have the 3D printer, go on it. If you don't, just make the clay teeth like I previously said. And once you have your hard teeth, you basically just put them in the mouth and that's it. I will say though that hard teeth are not really ones you can play around with the lining. You kind of just have to put them on top of everything once they're done, because it's a lot harder to mess with like fabric lining and hard material. So I would highly suggest that once you're done making your hard teeth, they just go into your mouth. I mean, if you want to mess around, you can, but I can't guarantee any other results that are going to be really good except for just, gluing them in there. And that's what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to just hot glue them in there. However, keep in mind that I have heard stories about hard teeth glued in with hot glue and they fall out over time. I'm sure there are other epoxies out there that you can use. There's sometimes specialty ones that you can use with certain materials. For instance, the plastic of my eyes actually has to be glued with a very specific cement to make sure this plastic stays in place. I can't do this with hot glue. So if you are concerned about the hot glue not holding your teeth, you can look into adhesives that hold down clay better than hot glue. But if you are in a rush, hot glue does work. Just keep in mind that it may not work over like a long period of time. It's not going to fall out generally the first go, but if you do heavy use your suit, you might have that problem in the future. So just keep that in mind. Okay, the last type of teeth, and this isn't so much a type of teeth more than it is just like a set of teeth, and that is jaw sets. Now, jaw sets are, once again, for the last time, they're exactly what they sound like. They are a full set of teeth in one big thing that I can't think of the word for. Jaw sets are basically the whole set of teeth, and they're almost exclusively made for resin bases. These teeth are made out of resin too. I also forgot, side note, if you want to make your hard teeth out of resin, you can try that as well. But jaw sets are almost, like I said, exclusively made for resin bases because they're made to fit the exact resin base they were built for, so they can just slide in. And yeah, they come in a variety of colors depending on who you buy from or if you make it yourself. I would not suggest using a jaw set on a toonie head, or rather on a foam base. You can, but it's probably going to look really weird because unless you do it right, that jaw set's kind of just going to sit on top of the foam and it's going to look probably a little out of place. So I would really, if you have a jaw set, keep it to a resin base. Now if you're thinking, oh, but I want a toonie head, but I want a jaw set because I want it to look realistic. You definitely can make a toonie head out of a resin base. It is extremely possible. I've talked about it in last vids, and there's many tutorials out there on how to make a toonie head on a resin base. It's all about how you shape the resin and how you make the eyes and all that. So it's 100% possible to make a toonie head with a resin jaw and make it look good. So that's basically it for the jaw set. I personally don't know all the details of going in to make them, so I'm not really going to advise you on that. They can almost always be bought online through a lot of makers in the fandom. I know DVC is probably one of the most popular people to get them from, so I'll link them below. But yeah, other than that, that's the jaw set for you, and it is definitely an option on both toonie and realistic heads, no matter what you're looking for. Alright, that is the 3 types of teeth, how to make them, what they're made out of, all that stuff, so I hope you enjoyed that. Again, teeth can be made out of really anything, so if you heard all of what I just said and you're like, I don't have any of that, or I don't want to work with any of that, go do whatever you want. Just have fun with it. Invent something new. Be the Steve Jobs of teeth if you want. But yeah, that is it for the basics of how to make the teeth, how to insert them. So now I'm going to finish up this video by giving you 2 little tips or final words on what to keep in mind when making teeth. So the first one is a shorter tip, so I'm gonna say it first. This is really more of a like hidden technique kind of thing, so I hope it helps somebody. But if you are in a pinch and you need to have your fursuit done in like 3 days and you don't know what to do, you don't want to take time to make the teeth, or maybe you just don't want to like take the time to make the teeth whenever, here is a really easy way to get some quick teeth. So you're gonna want to grab those Halloween vampire teeth, you know, the ones that you just stick in your mouth and you're gonna want to grab a pair of those. They're pretty cheap. You can get them online. I'm sure you can get them at any party store either. You're going to take those teeth, you're going to cut off the part that like connects them, so you just have the teeth part, the teeth that goes over your teeth, and you're going to glue them down wherever you want in your fursuit head. Generally I like to do on the bottom, and voila! You have quick fursuit teeth. They're just like a little set of teeth that is at the front of your mouth, and they're pretty convincing, especially if that's like all you put in. So there you go, a really quick set of teeth if you don't want to, you know, take the time to sew them all up or make them out of clay or whatever. I technically wouldn't suggest doing this on like your professionally sold suits because it is a little cheap, but I have seen some makers of all levels do this technique, so it really is kind of up to you. I would personally advise you trying to get better at making teeth yourself. But again, if teeth aren't your thing and you just want to get the message across that your character isn't all gummy, then there is a fun small hack for you, so have fun with it. Alright, the final tip for this video, and this is something that I myself still struggle with, but I'm hoping by addressing it, it'll help some of you deal with it too, and that is, there is no right way to make fursuit teeth. Now this is a really big thing to keep in mind, and I know if you're thinking, what do you mean there's not a right way? Like dogs have certain teeth. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about anatomically correct. I'm talking about the fact that there seems to be an unspoken affinity in this fandom for fursuits that have a lot of teeth. You see it online, you see people posting just the jaws of their fursuit, of their foam base, and they have these beautiful set of full teeth and all that stuff, and generally they're even made soft, so that means each of these teeth was hand sewn into the fursuit mouth. And you see people gushing about them, and you're like, wow, I wish my fursuit had all those teeth too. And you start to think that the only right way to make a fursuit is to give them a lot of teeth because that's what the crowd wants. And I'm here to say that that is not true. It might seem true because, like I said, a lot of people put preference to fursuits that have lots of teeth because it looks good, it looks cool, but it's not the end-all be-all to making fursuit teeth. There are so many fursuits out there that don't have that they just have the little tiny teeth, or they have the top ones, or they only have a few. And so you have to keep in mind that just because everybody's fawning over that wolf that has a full set of teeth doesn't mean your fursuit has to have that. And also keep in mind that not every fursuit is built to have that full set of teeth. For instance, my head, you can see the mouth of my fursuit is not super open, so I could not even have a full set of teeth in my mouth if I wanted to, because that is not how my suit is built. So if you do not build your fursuit to have all those teeth in it, don't push it. Don't try and shove them in there, because that's the thing, they're gonna look really weird. So if you do want all those teeth, definitely make it a priority to carve your mouth so it can accommodate all of them. But again, that's not how it has to be done, regardless of how much people like it. Just always remember what your fursuit head can accommodate best, and also what you like. Some people only like the little vampire fangs, you know, the ones that are just like the two little teeth on top. Some people only like the little teeth on the bottom. Some people do like a full smile. It's all about preference, and there's no right or wrong way. I have a fursuit that has teeth going all the way up. I have another fursuit that only has like 2 little teeth, not this one. And it's just, there's so many different ways to do it. Also, please take into account that even if you see a lot of everybody just fawning over that mouth that has all the teeth in it, not everybody likes teeth. So it's the infamous paws versus moths debate. Some people don't care about the teeth on a fursuit. Some people like the eyes. So you could only have 2 little teeth, but if your eyes are painted beautifully, you'll get a lot of, you know, credit for that. So never look at what people are just like going crazy over it and think that's the end all be all to what your fursuit has to be to look good, because I promise you it's not. Again, I struggle with this myself because, as you see, I don't put a lot of teeth in my fursuit, and I sometimes think if I did, maybe more people would enjoy my work. But at the end of the day, I make what I make, and whoever enjoys it, and that's all that can be said. So don't feel pressure to put, you know, the anatomical jaw inside your fursuit head to get a bunch of people to notice you, because it's really about what you want. It's about what your fursuit can handle, and just do your own thing, man. Just have fun with it. Alright everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. I kind of feel like I might have been a little bit of everywhere with this vid because the script in my mind was not as solid as some of my past vids, but I hope you learned something and enjoyed it regardless. As always, leave a comment below on what you'd like me to talk about next time in these tips and techniques vid, because I feel like I'm starting to run thin on the subject matter because I'm, you know, covering everything. I will say that the next few videos are going to be con vlogs because I have the FC con vlog footage burning a hole in my computer and I gotta get that up, and then I have a fun, like, just skit-ish video for you guys. So definitely tell me what you want to see for these tips and techniques video, and I'll probably have that up later down the line, but I want to get this con vlogs out. Also, I know it's a bit early, but I will be at BLFC, so if you're going to that, come say hi. I'll probably mention it again as it gets closer, but yeah, so until then, I hope you learned something. If you didn't, I hope you're laughing at me as always, and I will see you all